record. Okay. This is my ID. Can everyone wave for me? Okay. Thank you guys. Okay. So imagine you're 16 or 17, a senior in high school, and you're applying to college. Colleges are really competitive and meticulous in what they're looking for and who they are accepting. The perfect student has to have a 4.0 GPA, extracurriculars, and volunteer hours. But imagine you're also dealing with family issues, a part-time job, or even puberty. All of that while being able to balance a social life, have time to do homework, and have time for yourself. That's a lot to ask for someone who's only 16, isn't it? Now imagine you're feeling symptoms of depression, anxiety, or trauma. Imagine if you felt alone. Imagine you didn't have anyone to confide in. No one is aware of all of these negative feelings that you're bottling up. That is how most teenagers feel when they suffer a mental disorder. Alone, scared, and confused. Today, I will be discussing the issue of the lack of mental health literacy in adolescents. What you can gain from this information I will be sharing with you is knowledge of the stigma of mental health and seeing how big the impact of this problem actually is. Personally, mental health is such an important topic for me. I was first diagnosed with depression and anxiety in high school, which rooted from the struggle of trying to fit all of these expectations of that perfect student that I was describing. In high school, I actually created a club with my friend. We called it SWA, Student Wellness Association. We helped to educate other students in mental health and ways to cope with depression and anxiety. In my speech today, I will go into detail on the issue of the lack of mental health literacy in adolescents. I will establish a solution of adding a mental health curriculum in schools, and will create a visualization of a world where the solution is not implemented. First, I will go into detail about the lack of discussion of mental health in public schools. Journalist Hannah Hip wrote an article explaining why she believes mental health should be taught in schools. She supports her claims by providing many shocking statistics. 1 in 6 US youth ages 6 to 17 experience some sort of mental health disorder. In my first slide, I list the many types of common mental illnesses. She also depicts that 32% of adolescents have an anxiety disorder. It is revealed that the root of this anxiety disorder is usually due to school, such as the pressure to make good grades, the fear of failure, lack of confidence, or performance anxiety while taking timed tests. And an award-winning teacher with a Master of Education degree, Nancy Burrell, she shares her urgency of the problem by telling a personal anecdote. She saw this issue arising in her own students. She noticed her student, Melina, was no longer doing her homework and not putting any effort into her essays. Melina used to be meticulous about her appearance, but then she would start coming to school disheveled and wearing the same clothes. When speaking to her, she seemed to be distant and withdrawn. Later, it was revealed that Melina was depressed and suicidal and was eventually hospitalized. So, what are some ramifications if this problem is ignored? Dr. Deborah Rickwood shares an article on PubMed on when and how do young people seek professional help for mental health problems. Rickwood conveys that adolescents are more likely to seek help when they recognize that they have a mental health problem and have the knowledge, skills, and encouragement to seek help. When they don't seek help, this leads to suicidal thoughts or reliance on oneself, because there's a growing need for autonomy and independence through adolescence. A study performed by medical researchers such as Lisa Brown revealed that 1/3 of adolescents in the US who experienced suicidal ideation, depression, or substance use problems believe that they should be able to handle their own problems without outside help. This could eventually lead to negative attitudes and fears regarding mental health services. Now that you have heard the large impact this problem has, I will propose a solution that could help combat this issue. The solution I recommend is to implement a mental health course into the school's curriculum. A group of medical researchers actually studied the effectiveness of a school-based mental health literacy intervention, where they educate adolescents on mental health knowledge and address the stigma around mental health. If you look at my second slide, you can see how this experiment was set up. They conducted the study in 24 high schools, making a sample total of 534 students, where they randomly assigned some students to receive the course and some who didn't. The courses were titled Health Living courses, and they were delivered by their own teachers. They measured their knowledge in mental health by administering a pre and a post questionnaire. There was a significant change in stigma scores and an increase in positive attitudes toward mental illness. These findings reveal that this course is very applicable for teachers to administer, and all the results were mainly positive. Those who may oppose this solution may believe that school funds should go towards sports or physical education instead. However, mental health is just as important as physical health. If anything, they go hand in hand. Adrian O'Neill published an article on PubMed explaining the relationship between diet and mental health. Dr. O'Neill claims that consuming healthier food and exercising can actually lead to fewer mood fluctuations, an overall happier outlook, and an improved ability to focus. Now that you have listened to my solution, let's visualize a world where we ignored my recommendation. As I mentioned before, many young people are reluctant in seeking help because they lack knowledge in mental disorders. These new negative feelings are probably foreign to them and possibly even scary. If these young people do not seek professional help and learn ways to cope, it could lead to an increase in severity in their disorder, or might even lead to self-harm or suicide. If we did implement a mental health course in the curriculum, kids could be informed and well educated in mental health at a young age. They will learn how to communicate their feelings and find someone they are comfortable to confide in. It will help to validate their feelings or worries and prevent any negative circumstances in the future. Philip Piscitelli shares his story with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI. Philip was physically, psychologically, and emotionally abused by his grandmother throughout his childhood. He was diagnosed with PTSD, developmental disorders, and self-esteem issues, and was left with physical and emotional scars that haunted him because he never spoke up. When he was 18, he was top 10 of his class, volunteered at a hospital, was involved in a lot of clubs and extracurriculars, and he had a lot of friends and even a girlfriend. But none of them knew that behind closed doors, he suffered panic attacks and suicidal thoughts because he never spoke up. He finally spoke up and sought medical professional help before it was too late. He shares his story to NAMI to inspire those who lack courage to speak up if they feel like they need help. So I have discussed a lot of studies, statistics, and anecdotes with you guys. So let's recap what I've established. There's a rising issue in the lack of mental health literacy in adolescents. But I believe that the best solution to this problem is to implement a mental health course in the school's curriculum. And I helped you guys visualize a world where the solution was and was not installed. So how can you guys get involved? Let's look at the last slide of my PowerPoint. Let's start at a local level. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, gives multiple ways people can get involved in fighting against the stigma of mental health. You can attend a NAMI walk, you can fundraise, you can pledge to be stigma-free, or you can attend awareness events. This issue is extremely important to me because I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and acute PTSD. I was sexually assaulted and I've had multiple suicidal attempts. Before I spoke up, I thought I didn't have anyone to help me. I felt worthless and hopeless, and I was fighting this battle alone. I thought I was being overdramatic and that these negative feelings would be temporary. But when I finally spoke up, I realized I had so many people around me who loved and cared for me. And I'm still here, standing in front of you guys, telling my story. Thank you. So does anyone have any questions? Anna?
At like what grade level or age were you imagining that this class would be administered?
So I was thinking maybe, especially high school, but maybe even middle school, because middle school is, like where puberty starts and people like kids are trying to understand their feelings and everything, but I think especially high school, because that's usually when they're becoming like adults and then going into college. And I think that it's really beneficial to be educated in mental health and being able to be well versed into it and being able to communicate their feelings, because a lot of teenagers are afraid to do that, or they don't know how, or they just don't have family members or friends that they can confide in easily. So I think that would be really beneficial for them. Does anyone have any other questions or like clarifications? Jamie.
So how has becoming more knowledgeable about depression and stuff kind of helped or helped you navigate how you have it and stuff like that?
That's a good question. So in high school, I always thought that like my negative feelings were temporary. Like I said, I just thought that I was feeling sad, but it started to build up more and accumulate, and it became really overwhelming. And I thought I was going crazy, but then I did try to attempt in high school, but then I luckily there was like a glimmer of hope where I stopped, and I did finally I spoke up and I told my parents and my friends, and I received medical help. But I think that it's so important to know that your feelings are validated, because just being able to release all of that negative energy and like talk to someone and be able to put your feelings into words, it relieves so much stress. And it helped me realize that what my feelings, like, they're not crazy, and that it's totally normal and fixable, and that it's okay. So I think that's how it really helped me. And it also helped me with my anxiety too, because I had a lot of anxiety, like with taking tests and stuff and speaking publicly, but being able to learn new coping mechanisms has really helped me to move forward in my life. Does anyone have any more questions? Okay, then I think we're good. Thank you guys for listening. I'm gonna end the Zoom.